let's look at some of the companies, some of these gigantic companies in this space. There's a company called, well, Coldman Logistics Private Limited. Could not find a better name, I think. They do about 68 crores in turnover, and they're also loss making. They, at some point, they were much higher in terms of turnover last year because of pandemic and everything had reduced. But they do 68 crores in turnover, 80 crores in expenses, about 13 to 15 crores in losses. There's another one which does, let me see, TCI Cold Chain Solutions. They do about 36 crores in turnover, and they're profitable. They're profitable. And then Snowman Logistics. This is the biggest companies in this space, I think. 240 crores in turnover, and profitable. 6 lakhs of profit in the last year at the 240 crore turnover. But I think a lot of these companies, obviously, these profit after tax numbers are not correct. Because they do a lot of investment, they do a lot of capex for the next few years. So it's one of those things which I think is cash flow positive, but you probably won't see a lot of profit in the balance sheets.
So profit is on the P&L. Your balance sheet is your
Sorry.
capex is going to be on the balance
Yeah.
sheet. But yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is I rather than really their revenue and their profits, I would be more interested to see how big are their fixed assets. How much capital is there in that business in order to generate 200 crores? Can you quickly see, like for Snowman, like what are the total assets? Does it mention?
It does not. The report that I have does not. I have to get a detailed report if I have to get that. But the net worth
Oh,
is about 500 crores or 420 crores.
so that's
So
I mean, I'm assuming then their fixed assets will be maybe half of that or maybe more. So they're using 200 crores of fixed assets to generate 200 crores of revenue, out of which they're generating 6 lakhs of profit. And what for to evaluate this kind of business, what I would really look at is their ROCE, which is a return on capital employed, because it's a very capital intensive business. Right now, the ROCE is negative or practically zero. But in the future, the steady state ROCE is what would be interesting.
yeah, 100%. I think a lot of these kind of businesses, especially if you, when you talk about the kind of capital involved, you need the financial engineering skill set to raise at the right price, to get the right yield, to refinance when the rates are low. So you have to do a bunch of those things in order to make a shitload of money in this space, I think. Yeah. Okay. So, what are the problems? And so far we've discussed the state of the industry, the large players, what's driving demand. What really are the opportunities in this segment? Right. One, the entire space is very fragmented. There are only a few players that are at the large scale that I was talking about that can deal with these large companies who need these services directly. Otherwise, you need somebody to actually aggregate a lot of the room or cold storage facilities. And I think that's an opportunity because the market is so fragmented. Can you do aggregation of the smaller to mid-size cold warehousing and then provide that as a service to a large company? The second, single commodity. I mean, like we can't be building more cold warehousing which is single commodity. We need to figure out the technology to actually do multiple commodities in a single facility. So there's a technology angle there. Can you build better technology in terms of insulation, in terms of refrigeration equipment, in terms of how these are stacked and stuff like that? I think that's an opportunity, both hardware and software. Just like we were talking about in warehousing, there is opportunity in that space.
Question for you, Siddharth.
Yeah.
Can our robots that we spoke about earlier, can they withstand the 0 degree temperature? Or do we need special cold storage robots?
From whatever I know, anything electronics loves colder temperatures rather than all the heat, right? So I'm assuming they should be fine. It can't be wet, it can't be frozen environment. I think zero to positive, the robots should just be fine, I think. The other interesting opportunity is, can you build these micro warehousing or portable cold storage facilities near farmland or near rural areas? So there's a company called Ecofrost, and they are doing about 47 crores in turnover, 52 crores in expenses, so about 4 crores in losses. Again, expected because they're a technology company that is building out portable solutions for cold warehousing. So for somebody who harvests, let's say a farmer who harvests today and wants to store it for 7 days before he takes it to market because of price pressures and whatnot, they can basically get this van of sorts in their farmland. It's powered by solar, which is another angle which is extremely important in this entire space. And they can basically plug in and put their harvest in that cold sort of warehouse, which is portable. The solar angle is big in this space, right? Because as you can imagine, when you're talking about cold storage, you need a lot of electricity supply, and that's been one of the biggest sort of roadblocks in this industry. Is most of these states don't have consistent electrical supply for them to actually run a cold storage. If you can marry cold storage and solar together, I think this is a very interesting business that could be built out.
Yeah.
So a greenfield cold storage, which is buying the land, setting up the warehouse, can take up to 9 years to break even. But you have to understand that at that point in time, you have assets. You have the warehouse, the built out warehouse, and the land that's in your name. If you lease out an existing facility or an existing land, the cost is much cheaper. The break even is much cheaper. The break even is much faster. But if you want to do the greenfield thing, it is 8 to 9 years. I was reading a report which said in order to build a 15,000 square feet cold storage, you need to invest about 60 to 70 crores. So that's a greenfield project, which is land and a bunch of things included.
So that's about 4,000 rupees per square foot. And that I'm assuming is going to increase a little bit again because of the construction cost, which has increased. So
Yeah.
about 4 to 5,000 rupees per square foot.
So 4,000 rupees a square feet actually makes sense because it's double the warehousing cost from what I read. And you said 1,500 to 2,000 per square feet is what warehousing really costs. So it's double, but the rental yield are 3 to 4 times, which is why institutional investors are interested in investing in cold storage facilities. So the way I see this play out is obviously there's a technology play, both at the hardware angle on can you make better material, more energy efficient material. There's a software angle, just like warehousing, which we've already spoken about. The building out angle is much stronger in cold storage because it's relatively new compared to the warehousing boom that's already happened over the last 3 4 5 years, right? So if you can really figure out how to build this effectively in a cost effective manner, there will be takers both from a lease perspective and also takers who are ready to invest and get that 12-15% rental yield by leasing out the facility for 9-10 years.
This goes exactly with something a friend of mine said, is that he had built his first warehouse like 10 years ago. And at that time, the prophecy he was getting versus the kind of prophecy he's getting now is very different. Because as more players enter the market, the prices are obviously driven down. And therefore, a new market like cold storage, you'd get higher profits.
There's another company called Cool Crop, which is doing decentralized cooling warehouses, basically cooling as a service, similar to what I had mentioned earlier, which was called Ecofrost, which was portable, vans for cold storage. I think these guys are also doing something similar. That's an interesting opportunity. What other opportunities? Let me just quickly look. Oh, dude, AI and IoT. IoT has such a huge implementation scope in cold warehousing specifically, right from managing spillages, from managing humidity, temperature, using all of these sensors, making sure you're getting the right information and using the systems accordingly will be more energy efficient than putting the system at status quo 24 hours a day, right? So you can tune up and tune down depending on the sensor readings that you're getting.
Yeah, I just realized I made a huge mistake. I forgot to mention IoT about warehousing, because in the same way, IoT would play a huge role in normal warehousing as well.
Yeah.
And
So I think IoT and
with
yeah.
your warehouse management system and with your robotics, IoT is going to integrate completely with that. Without your sensors, how are you going to do proper warehouse management? How are you going to do robotics without your IoT sensors?
Exactly. And then one last piece of the puzzle is just having cold storage doesn't cut it. You need cold logistics, right? Basically, these reefer trucks and tempos that have the ability to transfer these goods from one point to another while maintaining temperature. That by itself is a very interesting opportunity. I haven't really dug deep into it, but a lot of these cold warehousing providers are actually adding this as an additional service, which is basically fleet of vehicles that can do cold storage and do the transportation. So that's another segment that people can potentially look at.